everybody. Welcome to another episode of Zig When They Zag, a show for business leaders who are obsessed with growth. Today's episode, we're going to talk about 5 reasons why your marketing isn't working. And with me, as always, is Kevin.
Hello, I am Kevin.
How's it going?
Great. It feels like a while since we've filmed one of these. And I don't know about you, but as things have started to reopen, being around people is really forcing me to reevaluate what it means to be human. So if I'm awkward, it's because I was born that way.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody about how everybody's going to reemerge and go back to work, but they're all going to carry with them different kinds of baggage from the previous year. So I'm curious to see how that'll play out in our own company.
I can't wait to hear the story of the person who actually makes it to the office and walks in and then realizes that they didn't put on pants.
Or they just turn around and go, nope. I don't want to do this.
Well, since this isn't a conversation about reasons why coming back to the office doesn't work, why don't we maybe talk about marketing? This one's really funny to me because, marketing is so challenging. It's one of those things I talk to our prospects about this all the time. It seems like it should be easy because there's so much information out there about what are the things that you should be doing. I need to be blogging every day. I need to be on Google. I need to show up in the top rankings. I need fresh content. I need video. I need to be on TikTok. I need to be relevant. And yet it all is so difficult to actually put into practice. So that's not the only reason, though. There are a lot of reasons. So really what I wanted to maybe start off with in this conversation is positioning.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really one of the ones, particularly for companies like you, not you, Jessica, but you, our audience, breaking the fourth wall here. Set first wall? This is weird. It's a two-dimensional.
Let's not get stuck on
Okay, I'm sorry. In-human interaction, in-person interaction. Keep it together, Kevin. But the reality is that you think about yourself in one way. Your potential customers, your ideal customers think about you in another way. But the third complicating factor is what else are they thinking about? Because they're comparing you to, whether they mean to or not, all the other options that they have. And this is why we talk about jobs to be done, versus actually talking about your service specifically. So I'd love to hear kind of why you think or what you've experienced in terms of brand positioning and kind of how that contributes to marketing not working out.
Yeah, I will say most of the time, anytime someone and there's a lot of small to medium-sized business leaders that say, well, I've invested tons in marketing and we didn't get what we wanted out of it. And I always think it's because you probably weren't positioned properly almost all the time. And even with our own clients, if they come to us and they don't want to go through strategy and they just want to get out there, we can do that. But they're going to run the same risk as if they were doing it themselves. Stop for a second and go, I don't think that you are talking about your business the way your customers are looking to learn about it. You're not saying the right things and you're not focusing on the right areas of your value.
Yeah.
And it's it's a big concept, but we have a framework that we can work through to help clients with that. But I would say most of the time, if you've spent money on marketing, it's not just the tactical stuff that maybe you haven't done well. It's probably the bigger picture thing. You're just not positioned yourself in the market the right way.
Yeah. And now I can actually tie my awkwardness back in to make a point. It's kind of like coming out of the pandemic, right? You've grown so accustomed to the modified behaviors and how you think about how you engage in the world and how close you get to people and whether or not you can shake hands or hugs. And when you think about work, all of the minor decisions that you inherently make every day about going to work are all going to have to be revisited, right? alarm clocks are going to be set at a different rate. Sorry, but
Yeah.
you can't just roll out of bed anymore, put on a collared shirt, and hop in your chair and be ready to go.
Hmm.
By the way, that is an area of male privilege that I totally acknowledge. It's unfair in the business world. But it's like that. And I think when it comes to your brand, you really have to think about all those subtle things that um, may not be obvious to you and are really hard for business owners to think about because they're not experiencing the business from a customer perspective,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
are exactly what go into the customer experience. That was a
and
really, really good point.
I think that's a good transition to the second reason why I think a business's marketing isn't working, and that's that customer centric approach to messaging. So I would say most business leaders who are experienced at running their business feel like they are the best person to talk to when it comes to figuring out how they should be positioned. And that's not true. Who's the
I
best
try
person
not
that
to
you
roll
should
my
talk
eyes.
to?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's the best person, Kevin, to talk to?
Well, me,
Customers.
because I will help you figure that out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
But yeah.
customers,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're the ones who know like what the value was in the relationship to begin with, what they ended up appreciating about working with that company or that product, and all the reasons why they needed it in the first place. If you don't understand that and you've never had those conversations with your customers before, you're not going to be able to position your company in a way that will really grow through marketing.
Yeah.
So
I
I
think
just,
about I think about this one.
uh huh.
Fellow Austinite, just moved here this past year. But Tesla is such a great example for me when I think about brand and I think about customer centricity, right? Because one, I mentioned Tesla, everybody has an expectation that immediately pops into mind as to
Uh
what the
huh.
experience with Tesla is like. So if you think about that experience though and how you think about it, do you honestly think that Elon Musk thinks about driving a Tesla the same way that you or I think about it?
Right.
I mean, honestly, I don't even know if that guy drives Teslas anymore. He's definitely either got a driver or he has like the prototype. I mean,
Or
I
he's just
imagine,
floating.
yeah, like, right? And so while he may be able to think about and contribute to the vision of the brand and certain aspects of it, those aren't going to be the key selling points, right? Because the
Mm-mm.
challenges that Tesla solves are not challenges that Elon Musk has. And so
Yeah.
my buddy just got a Tesla for his wife she's a realtor. He's
Ooh.
like, hey, I love you. This is an anniversary gift. Let's step up your car game. The thing I love about it, I drove by the other day. I was like, hey, where's the car? He's like, it's in the garage. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, I've never been able to park a car in the garage before. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, my garage is so full that we
Mm-hmm.
can't drive in, open the door, get out, and then lock the car. I can pull into the driveway, click a button, get out, close the door, and the Tesla will drive into the very tight space, 2 inches on each side, by itself.
Yeah.
And I can park the car in the garage, but I don't have to get in and do it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is a middle-aged man problem that Elon Musk never would have. And yet
Yeah.
Tesla somehow has designed a car to solve that problem. And
Well, and
the middle-aged man in me geeked out because I was like, oh my God, that'd be amazing. I'd love to be able to park a car in my garage.
I think
So
what's cool too is Tesla, if we're going to talk about them just a smidge more, is that you can order a car from their website really quickly. And I think if you want to think about Tesla and how well they've done in crafting the customer experience, it should make a lot of businesses question how hard it is to buy from them. You know,
oh my
if you
gosh.
can buy a Tesla online in 30 minutes, that it takes you how long to get through the sales process with whatever software company or whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
they really ought to be rethinking their their model there.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean, I think that's absolutely right. That's the key to effective marketing is understanding the customer experience and what they care about. For us, talking about our framework and kind of the process that we walk people through, I love talking about this part because we call it the hero message, and everyone's like, "All right, cool, yeah, I'm going to make my business out to be a hero," and I'm like, honestly, no, you're not the hero. The customer is the hero. There is some story where they are currently struggling, and you have the opportunity to understand what it takes to make them feel like a hero in that need that they have. And if we can do that, if we can tap into that emotion, those aspirational needs, those pain points, right? Then you win because you're building trust, this expectation of, man, my life will be better because I don't have to work as hard, I don't have to worry as much, or I can get this thing that was really hard for me to get and I didn't know if I could get it. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that one. So this is also one of my favorite one too. Number 3, reasons why your marketing doesn't work. You're cheap.
Wait, that's not what I wrote. I think I wrote your investment's too low.
You're a stingy, cheap, money grubbing. No, you're right. Your investment's too low. And actually, the challenge is not that people are cheap, at least in our experience, right? I think everyone who is successful in business, who we work with in terms of being at that point of opportunity for growth, just don't know how to get there. They know that it's an investment.
Yeah.
And so the challenge, I would love to hear kind of what you think in terms of why people don't invest enough in marketing. Like what leads to that?
I think it's hesitation and not understanding what other companies are doing. So there is a little bit of a feeling, I think, that business leaders have where they see somebody who's been marketing really well and they've been doing it for a long time, but to them, they just heard about them and they're like, wow, their marketing's great. I want to go do that. And they don't really understand like how much that business spent and how long it took to get them there, right? And they don't understand the strategy and positioning work that went into making that campaign so successful.
Yeah.
So some of it's just like they don't know. And what we've tried to do now when we work with customers who are really looking at driving sales with, an integrated marketing approach is to give them that ROI calculator, so to speak. Like if you spend this is what your cost of acquisition should look like. And then, given 6 to 12 months to get into the campaign and have it really start returning for you. Year 2 looks like this, year 3 looks like this, and it helps them at least understand, oh, I can't spend like $200 a month. It's not going to yield the deals I want, right? If a business has a customer and they spend $15,000-$20,000 with them on a service agreement, you have to spend a good amount of money to acquire that contract. That doesn't come from like a $200 ad campaign.
Yeah.
So this is what I've been told by CFO style people, that typically you're going to spend somewhere between 7 to 10% on sales teams of your revenue and anywhere from 10 to 15% on marketing. And it just depends on your margins overall as a company, how much you spend on marketing. Service-based businesses have narrow margins, restaurants have narrow margins, but furniture companies and SaaS companies have huge margins, and so they spend a lot on marketing and they should. So
is that like a huge margin jingle? Huge margins.
Huge margins. So, that should make it more of a realistic conversation for a business owner. Now you're a $1 million business.
Yeah.
How much should you spend on marketing for it to work?
So
more than they're spending.
one of my favorite services that we do is our goals and strategy workshop. And depending on specifically the need, one of the key outputs of that is the budget for growth, because there are two philosophies, I think, when it comes to marketing. Like, you have to, both of them kind of build on this, like, you have to spend money to make money. But the first is what I would call growth hacking, which is like, hey, just pour the money into it and then refine it as you go. The challenge with that is a couple of things, especially for B2B. One, you don't have that much money, right? Because the margins are slimmer. But two, you don't have as many customers as like a Nike or
that's right.
Right. And so it's so easy to lose a customer, and it's so hard to gain a customer. And so we don't, for us, our approach is we don't like to take those risks. We like to do the planning, do the strategy beforehand. And even though people are like, well, why would I invest in that? I just need to get started. It's like, well, because it's going to save you a year's worth of time and money to start off with an informed approach. And so for us, it really is to go through all of the factors that help us to develop out a preliminary model for investing in customer acquisition, investing in brand building, and then, scaling that up to get to that level of growth that we want to. Because we also recognize too, like, you're a $1 million company, you want to be a $10 million company. Well, you're not in a place where you can spend the marketing budget that you would spend if you're a $10 million company.
Yeah.
We know how to match the marketing spend to growth to get you there, because the marketing should always pay for itself.
Yeah. And you have to have runway with it, which is kind of the next point on the list. But when we talk about budgets and we talk about stepping clients into a realistic budget for actually growing with marketing, we want to give them a budget that they feel like they can commit to for the long haul, not I have just enough money to make it through 3 months, so this better pay off by then. That never works.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to that other point from previous where people, will say, oh, well, this company kind of came out of nowhere. Their marketing must be really great. They've been marketing for years. Yeah. They just finally reached you. You're like a tertiary audience. You weren't their primary early adapters or whatever, right? You're the crowd now.
Yeah. Well, what's really funny to me is when I talk to business owners, they are so accustomed to the sales interaction that they project onto marketing that same dynamic. They assume that every person that we're going to market to is ready to buy. And so it's interesting because, and we could do a whole episode on this. Yeah. That's not what marketing is for. Marketing is for understanding every step of the process where the thousands or millions of potential clients and buyers are out there in the world, and then hitting them sequentially in the right order, with the right messaging, through the right channel, at the right time, with the appropriate call to action to move them to that next step, to then begin to fuel consistent growth. But everyone's like, no, you just like send out the message and then they call and they buy. And it's like,
it's like the Yellow Pages model.
Yeah. And then it's been some really good conversations, but it is, I think, important. Like, marketing takes time because the assumption is that we want to get people before they even know that they need you. So that when they start to evaluate you, you're already there, right? And that's a big difference. And that's one of the many reasons why you can't just pull a trigger on marketing and hope that you're going to, reel in 10 or 12 big fish.
Yeah. And it's hard to have those conversations when clients start to run out of funds to like keep it going. Because you're like, it's not meant to be returning yet, and you're going to just turn it off. So now it's like you just burnt up all that money from the last 3 months. You got to figure out a way to make it last.
Yeah.
And even if it gets turned down a little bit here and there, it's got to be consistent. Consistency should be the key word when it comes to online marketing and marketing in general.
One of my favorite things in my promotions folder in my personal email box is to get a new newsletter or email campaign and be like, where did this come from? Like, I have not interacted with this company since like 2007. And all of a sudden, they're like, hey, had great interaction with you, ready to buy. And I'm like, whoa. You are not in my life like that. Slow your roll there.
Oh, it's funny. My husband, Neil, who produces the show, engineers the show, he said the other day he got an email from a company he bought from like 10 years ago. And he's like,
classic Neil.
They must have hired a marketing person because I haven't heard from them in 10 years, but now I'm getting a promotional email from them.
That's exactly that. It was like, oh, cool. No, not ready to buy. Haven't bought from you in 10 years. Like, yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. So
that's right.
My other favorite thing, and this is probably a little mean, but I feel for the companies who don't quite put the effort into the polish. And I think that's one of the other reasons for us in terms of what's not working is I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm bad at. And when it comes to marketing, it takes more than just, the foundational understanding of your customer. It takes more than just the offer. It takes more than just the promo. It takes understanding and being able to write compelling copy. It takes the ability to parse that copy into easily digestible and consumable, sections, and then have those sections build up interest and know what each topic you need to express, what information about at the right time, and lead it to the call to action. And it needs to be visually pleasing and support the whole tone and brand and all the things. And man, good marketing is like art. And maybe I feel that way because I'm not the one who does it. We have the most amazing writers and designers on our team. And I continue to be delighted by the work that they produce. But man, bad marketing is so damaging because it is so easy to lose a customer, to turn off a customer or a prospect. My wife and I.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, my wife and I, whenever we drive around the country, right, whenever we're on the trip or something, we'll go to restaurants and we'll look at the menu pictures. And we're always like, is this going to be good food but bad menu pictures? Like, there are a couple of restaurants where like, we feel we don't want to take people to it because like the whole experience of building up their expectation, they're going to go in and they're going to look at the menu and it's just like this brown pile of, someone took the photo.
Grainy photos.
Yeah. And I'm just like, man, spend a little money showing what that dish could look like. The experience backs it up. And that's the thing. It's not a bad restaurant. And that's really the challenge.
The thing is, it's not just like small restaurants. It's, really good B2B companies that have existed for 40 years and it's always looked bad.
Yeah.
And they've always just accepted it. And they focus so much on a sales team and client engagement that the marketing part is kind of an afterthought until, someone with fresh eyes comes in and says, we look awful compared to our competitors. Like, when are we going to clean up our act, right? They just settle for it for years. And I think
roll out of bed and get to work.
Yeah. And I by not focusing on it, not refreshing every 4 to 5 years, kind of your creative materials and how visually appealing your marketing looks, your proposals look, all of that stuff. You just run the risk of looking old, outdated, and communicating things that you don't mean to communicate.
Here's a good way for y'all to think about it. How much time in your life have you actually spent thinking about a bad handshake, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows what I'm talking about. You get a bad handshake and it just sticks with you. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, and it overshadows the whole experience. Even if it's just awkward, right? Like you bump, webs or whatever, like
Yeah.
it is. And that's what the role of design is it should be completely frictionless. It should create no barriers whatsoever to people receiving the right messaging, right? It shouldn't be distracting, but at the same time, it can effectively support a cohesive brand and really drive that value. And that takes a good understanding both of the design techniques and the capabilities, and the study that goes behind that, right? I love hearing Brandon, our creative director, talk to clients about color choices and preferences like that. But it also takes a good understanding of, hey, how's this going to be applied? Like what are we trying to accomplish here? And again, most people just get stuck because they think marketing is, hey, we just need to have a good deal. Like they'll understand the value.
And not that I want to say that this is a hack by any means, but if you are lacking in messaging and positioning, but your stuff looks good, sometimes you can get away with it, like if it's supported by good service and good people at your company, but you're almost guaranteed to lose people if all of it's bad, Yeah.
So there's definitely the dive bar, right? He needs to succeed because people love it.
Yes, but you don't want to be the dive bar of IT companies or whatever. So in conclusion, kind of 5 reasons why your marketing isn't working. 1, your brand positioning isn't strong. 2, your message isn't customer-centric. Your investment is too low. Not enough time has passed, and frankly, it doesn't look good.
Frankly, it's ugly.
Yeah. Well, that was great.
Yeah, that was actually kind of depressing. So we're leaving. It's the end of the episode. But if you're struggling with any of that, by all means, reach out to us because this is one of the reasons why we exist, is because these are the things that diminish your value from being out there in the world. Like, you are a company who is ready for growth. Let's come alongside you and pave that path for customers to come to your door. Let's figure out how we tell your story. Let's show you off in a way that is really engaging, high quality, up to today's standards. Let's remove all of the friction from the process and let's make it work to your advantage. It's really what it takes. And I think the challenge is real. Like what worked before, right, won't work at this scale. You need help.
That's
That's what we're here for. So
that's awesome.
I do think it's a good conversation. Hopefully we didn't offend anyone.
I hope they take another look.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Jessica. As always.
As always. All right. Bye.
Bye.